Hey there, ghosting ghouls! Warlock here. Today, I got something special for you. Now, a couple months ago, I read The Spirit of Things by Simon R. Green, and I got a lot of good feedback from that. A lot of people said they liked the weird noir, comboed with horror sense of that kind of style. And I really like that kind. It's called urban fantasy, and I love that. So, I got another book of a bunch of his short stories, and for the next 3 weeks, I'm going to be reading a different story from it. Today, I'm going to be reading Hungry Hearts. Next week, I will be reading Appetite for Murder. And then to kick off the Christmas season, I will be reading Lucy or Lucky at Christmas. So, let's go. This is Hungry Hearts by Simon R. Green of the Nightside series. Enjoy. The city of London has a hidden heart, a dark and secret place where gods and monsters go fist-fighting through its alleyways, where wonders and marvels are two a penny, where everything and everyone is up for sale, and all your dreams can come true, especially the ones where you wake up screaming. In London's Nightside, it's always dark, always 3 o'clock in the morning, the hour that tries men's souls and finds them wanting. I was drinking wormwood brandy in the oldest bar in the world when the femme fatale walked in. The bar was quiet, or at least as quiet as it ever gets. Bunch of female ghouls out on a hen's night were getting tipsy at Mother Ruin's, complaining about the quality of the finger buffet. Ghouls just want to have fun. A pair of Neanderthals had put away so many smart drinks, they were practically evolving before my eyes, and 4 emissaries from the outer dark were playing cutthroat bridge and cheating each other blind. Just another night at Strangefellow, until she walked in. She came striding between the tables, with her head held high, as though she owned the place, or at the very least, was planning a hostile takeover. She slammed to a halt before my table, gave me a big smile, let me look her over. A tall cylinder, platinum blonde, late teens, little black dress, big eyes, big smile, industrial strength makeup, attractive enough in an intimidating sort of way, an English rose with more than her fair share of thorns. She introduced herself in a light, breathy voice and sat down opposite me without waiting to be asked. She tried her smile on me again. On anyone else, it would probably have worked. "You're John Tyler, private investigator," she said briskly. "I'm Holly Wilde, and I'm a witch. My ex stole my heart. I want you to find it and get it back for me." Not the strangest thing I've ever been asked to find, but I felt obliged to raise an eyebrow. "I'm being quite literal," she said. "All witches learn how to remove their hearts and keep them safe and secure in some private place so that no one can ever fully kill us. As long as our hearts stay safe, we always come back. Hardly sporting, I know, but if I believed in things like fair play, I'd never have become a witch in the first place. My ex, bad access to his desired soul, used to be my mentor, taught me all I knew about magic, and rode me breathless, every exciting at no extra cost. Gideon Brooks, perhaps you know the name?" "No," I said, which is unusual. I know all the major players in the Nightside, all the real movers and shakers, all the magical means, but I don't know him. She shrugged prettily. "Well, it comes to forbidden knowledge. Gideon is the reason why a lot of it is forbidden. A very powerful, very dangerous man on the quite. Anyway, I thought we were getting on splendidly, but when I decided I'd learned enough to leave Gideon and strike out on my own, he suddenly got all possessive of me. I thought we were just mentor and student with benefits, but now he's all over me, declaring his undying love and how he can't live without me. Well, I was shocked, Mr. Tyler. I don't do emotional engagements, not at this stage in my career. I try to be grateful about it, but there's only so many ways a girl can say no in a loud and caring voice. So after a while, He calmed down, apologized, and said he was just worried about me, which was fair enough. But then he persuaded me to hand over my heart so he could place some heavy-duty protections on it to keep me safe once I was out on my own, and like a fool, I believed him. He has my heart, Mr. Tyler, and he won't give it back. And whoever owes a witch his heart will always have power over her. I'll never be free of him. She finally stopped for breath and gave me a big smile again, accompanied by a big eyes and a deep breath to show off her bosom. I gave her a smile of my own, no more sincere than hers, of course. For all her artless honesty and finishing school accent, Holly was a phony as a banker's principles. All the time she'd been talking to me, her gaze had been darting all around the bar, hardly ever looking at me, and never making eye contact for more than a few seconds, which is a pretty reliable sign that someone is lying to you. But that was okay. I'm used to clients lying to me, or at the very least, being economical with the truth. My job is to find what the clients ask for. The truth makes the job easier, but I can work around it if I have to. What kind of witch are you, Holly? I said. Black, white, Wiccan, or gingerbread house? She bestowed a happy wink at me. I never allow myself to be limited by other people's perceptions. I'm just a free spirit, Mr. Tyler, or at least I was until I met Gideon Brooks. Nasty man. Say you'll help me, pretty please. I'll help, I said, for 1,000 pounds a day, plus expensive, and don't plead poverty. That dress you're wearing costs more than I make in a year, and don't get me started on those shoes. She doesn't even blink, just slapped an envelope down on the table before me. When I opened it, 1,000 pounds of cash stared right back. I gave Holly my best professional smile, made the envelope disappear about my person. Never put temptation in the other people's way, especially in a bar like Strangefellows. Well, they'll steal your gold fillings if you fall asleep with your mouth open. Holly leaned forward across the table to fix me with what she thought was a serious look. They say you have a special gift for finding things, Mr. Tyler, a magical inner eye that can see what everything is, but that won't help you find my heart. Gideon's placed it inside a special protective rosewood box called Heart's Ease. No one can pierce the magic surrounding the box, and only Gideon can open it, and you won't be able to find him or his house either. Gideon lives inside his own private pocket dimension that only connects with our world when he feels like it. Only saw him when he let his house appear at various places throughout the night side, and I haven't seen him since he stole my heart. She looked me right in the eye while she's told me this, so I accepted most of this as provisionally true. She leaned back in the chair and gave me her big smile again. It really was quite impressive. She must have spent a lot of time practicing it in front of a mirror. I know, find a missing heart and find a missing man and a missing house, but if finding them were easy, I wouldn't need you, would I, Mr. Tyler? She got up to leave, as entirely calm and composed as she'd entered despite her fascinating sob story. How will I find you, I said. You won't, Mr. Tyler. I'll find you. Toodles. She waggled her fingers at me in a general goodbye and was off, striding away with the straight back, ignoring her surroundings as though they were unworthy of her. Which they probably are. Strangefellows isn't exactly elite, and you couldn't drive it up market with a whip and a chair. I sipped thoughtfully at my brandy for a while, and then strolled over to the long mahogany bar to have a quiet word with Strangefellow's owner, bartender, and longtime pain in my neck, Alex Morrissey. Alex only wears black because no one has come up with a darker color. He could gloom for the Olympics with an honorable mention in external angst. He started losing his hair while he was still in his early 20s, and I can't help feeling there's a connection. He was currently probing the bar snacks with a stick to see if there were any life left in them. A bunch of spirits were hanging around the bar, shifting semi-transparent shapes that blended in and out of each other as they drained the memories out of old wines from long ago bottles. Only Alex could sell the same bottle of wine several times over. I made the sign of the extremely cross to the spirits, and they drifted sulkily off down the bar so Alex and I could have a talk privately. Gideon Brooks, Alex said thoughtfully after I'd filled him in on the necessary details. He cleaned a dirty glass with the same towel he'd used to mop up a steal from the bar top to give him time to think. Not one of the big names, but you know that well, as I do. Of course, the really powerful ones like to stay out of sight and under the radar. But the Rosewood box, Heart's Ease, that name rings a bell. Some sort of priceless collectible, the kind that's worth so much it's rarely bought or sold, but more often prized from the dead fingers of the previous owner. Collectibles, I said? Always more trouble than they're worth, and the night side is littered with these magical little shops that sell absolutely anything, no questions asked, and currently no guarantees where the hell am I supposed to start. Alex smirked and slapped a cheap flyer down before me. Once in a future collectibles announced the ugly black letters. I should have known. All kinds of rare and strange items turn up in the night side, from the past and the future, and a number of alternate Earths. The jet stream and flotsam of the invincible worlds. And this being the night side, there's always someone ready to make a profit out of it. Once in future collectibles, traveling show offered the largest selection of magical memorabilia and general weird shit to be found anywhere. Someone would know about the Rosewood box. I made a note of the current address and looked up to find Alex grinning at me. You know who you'd need to talk to, he said. The Queen of Hearts. She's bound to be there, and she knows everything there is to know about the heart-related collectibles. Big Bad Betty herself. I'm sure she'll be only too happy to renew your acquaintance. Don't, I said. Only good thing that woman has ever taught me was to avoid mixing my drinks. I thought you made a lovely couple. You want to slap? I left Strangefellows and headed out into the narrow rain-slick streets of the night side. The night was bustling with people and some things, very definitely not people, all in hot-eyed pursuit of things that were bad for them. Hot neon burned the eye every side, and cool music wafered out of the open doors of the kind of clubs that would never close, where you can put on the red shoes and dance till you bleed. Exotic smells from hundreds of different cuisines. Barkers at open doors shilling thrills so exotic they don't even have names in polite company. And of course, the Twilight Daughters patrolling every street corner. Love for sale or something very like it. You're never far from heaven or hell in the night side, though they're often the same place under new management. I was heading for the old market hall, where the once and future collectibles were currently set up, when someone eased up alongside and made himself known to me. He was got up like a 1950s biker, all gleaming black leather, polished steel chains, peaked leather cape, and an almost convincing Brandon swagger. He couldn't have been more than 16, 17 most, with a corpse pale face and thin colorless lips. His eyes were dark, his gaze hooded and meaningless. He matched my pace exactly. His hands stuffed deep in his pockets of his leather jacket. The name's Gunboy, he said in a calm, easy monotone, not even looking at me. Mr. Sweetman wants to talk with you now. All lines, no business. All lines busy, I said. Call back later. When Mr. Sweetman wants to talk to someone, they talk to him. How nice for Mr. Sweetman. But when I don't want to talk to people, I have a tendency to push them off of pavement and let them go play in traffic. Gunboy took one hand out of his jacket pocket and pointed it at me, the finger shaped like a child's imaginary gun. He let me have a good look at it, and then pointed to the single exterior painted at a row of blazing neon bulbs set above the door to the Long Pigeon franchise. His hands barely moved, but one by one the bulbs exploded, sparks flying wildly at the night air. A large man in a blood-soaked white overalls came hurrying out to complaining, took one look at Gunboy, and went straight back in again. Gunboy blew imaginary smoke from his finger, then stuck it casually in my ribs. He wasn't smiling. His dark gaze was hot and compelling. Conceptual good, he said, his lips barely moving.
Conceptual bullets. Real, because I believe they are. The power comes from me, and so do the dead bodies. Come with me, or I'll make a real hole in you.
I considered him thoughtfully. Down the years, I've acquired several useful and really quite underhanded tricks for dealing with guns aimed in my direction, but they all depended on there being some kind of actual gun to deal with. So I gave Gunboy my best. I'm not in the least intimidated smile and allowed him to take me to his master. Gunboy was kind enough to put his hand back in his pocket as we walked along together. I'm not sure my pride would have survived otherwise. Mr. Sweetman turned out to be staying at the Hotel des Horres, a very upmarket, various privacy establishment where all the rooms were individually time-coded. Stay as long as you like in your room, and not one moment will have passed when you step outside again. Ultimate and assured privacy. As long as you keep your door locked, you could spend your whole life in one of those rooms. So don't ask me how you manage room service. Gunboy guided me to the right room, performed a special knock on the door, waited for it to open, and then pushed me inside. The single finger probed me in my back was enough to keep me moving. Mr. Sweetman was waiting for us. A very large Greek gentleman in a spotless white caftan. He rose ponderously from an overstuffed chair and nodded easily to me. His head was shaved. He wore dark eye makeup, and he smiled only briefly as he gestured for me to take the chair opposite. We both sat down and looked at each other over with open curiosity. Gunboy stayed by the door, his hands back in his jacket pocket, looking at nothing in particular.
Mr. Tyler,
said Sweetman in a rich, happy voice.
An honor, my dear sir, I do assure you. Oh, bumps into so many living legends in the night side that it is positive treat to encounter the real thing. I am Alyssa Sweetman, a man of large appetite, always hungry for more. You and I, sir, have business to discuss. Yes, we do. To our mutual benefit, I hope. You may talk candidly here, Mr. Tyler. Dear Gunboy will ensure that we are not interrupted.
Gunboy gave me a brief look to indicate that I'd better behave myself, and then leaned back against the door. His eyes immediately elsewhere as he thought about whatever teenage thrill killers think about. I was going to have to do something about Gunboy, for my pride's sake at least. I smiled easily at Sweetman while he arranged the folds of his caftan for maximum comfort. He looked like a man who liked his comfort. He smiled at me like some favorite uncle who might bestow all manners of treats if he felt so inclined.
Your reputation precedes you, Mr. Tyler. Indeed it does. So let us not beat out the bush. You are currently in pursuit of a certain prize that I have a special interest in. The box, Mr. Tyler, the Rosewood box. It has gone to many names, of course. Inventable for a treasure that has passed through so many hands down the centuries, but I believe you might know it as the Heartsease.
I know the name as carefully. Non-committal. He let out a sharp bark of a laugh.
I do admire a man who plays his cards close to his chest. Indeed I do, Mr. Tyler. But there's no need to be bashful here. I have pursued the Rosewood box for many years, though many lands, many worlds, disputing their equally serious collection along the way. But now the box has come to the night side. So here we all are. Yes, I must ask you, Mr. Tyler, where precisely is your interest in the box?
I didn't see any good reason to conceal the truth, so I gave him the reader's notes version of what Holly told me, concealing only her name. When I was finished, Sweetman gave his short bark of a laugh again.
Whatever the Rosewood box may turn out to contain, Mr. Tyler, I can assure you it is most definitely not the heart of some unimportant little witch. No, no. The box contains the source of great power, a great man's heart, perhaps even a god's. Some say the box contains the preserved heart of a great old lord, Lud, the original foundation stone for London. Others say the box contains the missing heart of the terrible old sorcerer Merlin's Satan spawn, or perhaps the heart of Nicholas Tesla, the broken and bitter saint of the 20th century silence. No one knows for sure, only the box contains a power worth dying for, or killing for. Certainly the box become a famous in its own right. It has become a collectible unto itself, whatever it might eventually prove to contain.
So, I said, a source of wealth and possible power. No wonder so many people want it.
Psst! From hand to hand, down the years, acquiring blood and legend along the way, Mr. Tyler. Priceless because there isn't enough money in the world to buy it. You have to be a man enough to take it and hold on to it.
He was leaning forward now, licking his lips, his eyes gleaming. He was so close to what he'd chased for so long. He could almost taste it. Only his need to be sure that he knew everything I knew kept him from harshing methods of interrogation. And since he had no way of knowing how little I did know, I made a point in leaning back in on my chair and stretching easily. "What do you think's in the rosewood box?" I said. He leaned back in his chair and studied me thoughtfully, taking his time before answering.
"I have been given good reason to believe the box contains the heart of William Shakespeare, Mr. Tyler. The heart of England itself, some say."
"And what would you do with such a thing once you got it?" Sweetman smiled widely.
"I mean to eat it, Mr. Tyler. Only the rarest and most exquisite gastronomic experiences can arouse my jaded palate these days. And this particular delicacy should prove most satisfying. You have a gift for finding things, Mr. Tyler. Find the box for me. However much the little witch is paying you, I will double her offer."
"Sorry," I said, "but I have to be true to my clients."
"Even when they lie to you?"
"Perhaps especially then." I got up to leave, and Sweetsman immediately gestured the gunboy at the door. He straightened up as I approached and brought one hand out of his leather jacket. I brought one hand out of my trench coat pocket, ripped open a satch of coarse pepper I always keep with me, and threw the whole lot in his face. His head snapped back and startled, but it was already too late. He sneezed explosively in and again, while sharp tears ran down his face from squeezed shut eyes. He waved his finger back and forth, but it didn't worry me. With his nose and eyes full of pepper, there was no way Gunboy could concentrate enough to manifest his conceptual gun. Never leave home without a condiment. Condiments are our friends. I easily sidestepped the weeping Gunboy and opened the door. I risked a quick look back, just in case Sweetsman had his own hidden weapon, but he had lost all interest in me. He had his arms around Gunboy's shaking shoulders and was comforting him like a child, or almost like a child. I shut the door quietly behind me and left the Hotel des Hortus. At least, I didn't waste any time. The old market hall is a great open barn of a place, and the once and future collectibles traveling show filled it from wall to wall with hundreds of stalls, large and small, offering more rare and unusual memorabilia in one place than the human mind could comfortably accommodate. I strolled up and down the aisles, glancing casually at this stall and that, carefully not showing too much interest in anything. Not that there was anything particular exceptional on offer. Old Betamax video of Elvis starring as Captain Marvel in some other world's 1969 movie Shazam, one of Dracula's coffins complete with the initial grave dirt and a certificate of authenticity, the mummified head of Alfred Garcia, smiling strongly of Mexican spices, and the mirror of Dorian Gray. I finally wandered over to the Queen of Hearts stall, as though I had just happened to be heading in her general direction. Big Bad Betty was running the whole thing on her own, as usual. Large as life and twice as imposing. A good 6 feet tall and strongly built, she wore a stylized gypsy outfit, complete with an obvious fake wig of long dark curls, and the hell of a lot of clanking bracelets up and down her meaty arms. The fingers of her large hand were covered in enough heavy metal rings to qualify as knuckle dusters. She looked like she'd have no hesitation in using them. She was attractive enough in a large, dark, and even swarthy kind of way. I gave her my best ingratiating smile, and her baleful glare didn't alter one iota. I pretended to look over the contents of her stall to give her time to realize the scowl wasn't going to be enough to scare me off. Big Bad Betty liked to style herself the Queen of Hearts because she specialized in hearts-related collectibles. She was currently offering the carefully preserved heart of Guillaume Consalval, bigger than you'd think. A fill of heart's blood from a Verny the vampire, and a pack of playing cards that once belonged to Louis Corral, with all the hearts painted in dried blood. Nothing special. Got some nerve showing your face, John Tyler. Betty said finally. Just looking, I said. I do like a good browse. I hired you to find my missing husband. I did find him. Not my fault he'd had his memory wiped, didn't remember you anymore. Not in any way my fault that he had his memory wiped to make sure he wouldn't be able to remember you. Maybe you should have tried counseling. She scowled at me. Never called me after that once. That wasn't what you hired me for. What do you want here, Tyler? One of the grounds that the sooner you're out of my sight, the better. What can you tell me about the Rosewood box, called by some Heartsease? She couldn't resist telling me. She did so love showing off what she knew, and no one knows more about hearts than Queen of Hearts. The box is century-old, supposedly first put together in the pre-revolutionary France, designed to contain the suffering of a broken heart lover. He put all in the box so he could be freed of it, hence the name Heartsease. How very French. Though there are other stories that what the box contains has become something else. Down the centuries, something darker, hungrier, making the box the perfect container for all kinds of magical and significant hearts, which is why the box has had so many other names. Heartsbreaker, Hungry Heart, the Dark Heart. You pay yours money and you believe what you choose. As far as I know, no one's dared open the box for years. Any collector who's had 2 working brain cells to bang together stays well clear of it. Now buy something or get lost. I nodded politely and moved away from her stall as quickly as possible without actually running. I got everything I needed from Betty, but I was still going to need a little specialized help if I was going to find Gideon Brooks. His traveling house in the Rosewood box, so I concentrated and raised my special gift. My inner eye slowly opened, my third eye, my private eye, and I looked around the market halls with my raised sight, searching for what I needed. A key that would unlock the traveling dimensions door. Something blazed up right not too far away, glowing white, hot, with mystical significance. I strode quickly down the aisles, finally stopped before a stall that offered nothing but keys, in all shapes and sizes. Skeleton keys to unlock any door, less silver keys to reveal hidden secrets, solid iron keys to undo chastity spells, keys of our very old symbol that can undo any number of symbolic magics. One key stood out among the ranks of rows of hanging keys, shivered very brightly in my inner eyes only, a simple brass key, marked with Paramine glyphs. I'd seen it kind before in certain very restricted books. This was summoning key, which could not only open any door, actually bring the door to you. Just what I needed. Unfortunately, key doesn't have a price tag on it, and in the place like this, that could only mean that if you had to ask the price, you couldn't afford it. So I used my gift to find the one moment when the stall's holding attention was somewhere else, and I just reached out and took the key and walked away. I could always give it back later, when I was finished with it, when I found the time. The stall's holder really should have invested in some half-decent security spells, or something like that. I was heading casually for the nearest exit, the key tucked safely away in an inside pocket, when Holly Wilde appeared, suddenly out of the crowds to block my way. She smiled at me winningly. I had a feeling you'd be here, and so you are. Aren't you glad to see me again? I don't know, I said. I do prefer my clients to tell me the truth, whenever possible. I didn't exactly lie, she said poutingly. All right, yes, there's a lot about the Rosewood box I didn't tell you, but I was pretty sure you'd find that out on your own once you started looking. I didn't want to scare you off after all, and I do so want my heart back. I just don't know what I'll do without it. I sighed. It was hard to stay mad at her, though probably worth the effort. Why would Gideon Brooks put your heart in such a precious and important box? Because it was the only thing he had that he knew I couldn't get into, she said artistly. And all you want is your heart back, I said. don't care about the priceless and important box. Well, she said, if it should happen to fall into our hands, that would be a nice bonus, now wouldn't it? You're batting your eyelashes at me again, I said. Stop it. Sorry, force of habit. Other people are looking for the box, I said, shifting on to what I hoped was safer ground. I told her about Sweetman and Gunboy, and she stamped her little foot and said a few baby swear words. That fat man and his toy boy. I knew they were sniffing around, but I didn't know that they were this close. We have to get to Gideon before they do. All they care about is the box. They wouldn't care about my poor little heart. Sweetman seemed very sure the box holds about a famous or important heart, I said. Might do, who knows, said Holly, shrugging easily. Who knows how many hearts have ended up inside that box down the years? I only care about mine. What are you doing about here anyways? Such a tacky place, all full of tack and kids. I can feel my streets cred slipping away just for being here. I have acquired a useful little toy that will bring Gideon's door right to us, I said. She squeaked in excitement and did a little happy dance right in front of me. Yes, yes, I knew you wouldn't let me down. I tell my clients everything, I said pointedly. Are you sure there isn't more you should be telling me? I don't think so, said Holly Wild, eyes full of an entirely unconvincing innocence. We left the market hall together, and I found a reasonable, calm, and quiet place to raise my gift again. I set my sight shooting up out of my head and into the night sky, speaking with more stars than the outside world ever dreamed of, and then looked down at the nightside streets, turning slowly beneath me. All around I could see the subtle flashes and occasional flare-ups of magic working, the more openly dramatic radiations of detonations of mad scientists at play. Giant wisps from march up and down the streets, passing through buildings as though they weren't even there. Just the ancient owl folk, going about their unknowable business. All kinds of traffic thundered through the streets, carrying all kinds of goods and people, and never ever stopping. And some buildings just disappearing from view, coming and going, replaced by other buildings, following their own indestructible journey. Every now knows a moving target is harder to hit. Down in my own person, I held the summoning key firmly in my hands and focused my gift through it. And then immediately, one particular building jumped out at me with an extra significance, and the key locked onto its one spatial door I needed to find. The building hopped and skipped around the night side, appearing and disappearing at random, but more like a fish at the end of a line now. I had the summoning key. I chased Gideon Books up and down the night side, sticking close no matter how many times he tried to throw me off. My mind soaring impossibly fast from one location to another, invisible and undetected, until finally Gideon Brooks just gave up and his home settled down in one place and stayed put. It's materializing right before me, pressing a quite unremarkable door and squeezing into place between two perfectly respectable establishments, which rather grudgingly budged up to make room for it. I dropped back inside my head and released my hold on the summoning key. The door before me looked entirely unthreatening, but I checked it over with my sight anyway, just in case. Heavy-duty protective magics crawled all over the door and sparkled all over the air around the buildings. I held up the key, muttered the proper activation words, and unlocked all the protections one by one. It took quite a while, Holly squeaking excitedly and clapping her little hands together. That's when Sweetman and Gunboy turned up. They were just suddenly there, strolling down the streets toward us, Sweetman in his great white caftan, rolling along like a ship under full sail, Gunboy swaggering at his side like an attack dog on a short leash. Holly actually hissed at the sight of them like an affronted cat and moved quickly to stand behind me. I carefully shut down my sight so I could concentrate on the matters at hand.
My dear Mr. Tyler,
said Sweetman as he crashed to the halt before me.
Well done, sir. Well done indeed. I knew it could rely on you to chase Gideon Brooks down, but I have to say, I never thought you'd be able to run his very special house to the ground. You shouldn't look so surprised to see me, my good fellow. Really, you shouldn't. Dear Gunboy and I have been following you ever since you left our hotel.
No, you haven't, I said flatly. I'd have noticed.
Well, not personally following as such.
Sweetman agreed.
I took the liberties of slipping a small but very powerful tracking device into your coat pocket while you were preoccupied with the poor gun boy. The dear boy does make such a marvelous misdirection.
I looked at Gun Boy. How do you feel about using like that? He took one hand out of his pocket and pointed at me.
I do what Mr. Sweet says, and so will you.
Are you going to let him talk to you like that?
That's Holly, said Holly from behind me.
As long as he's pointing the conceptual gun at me, yes, I said. Mr. Sweetman, as I understand it, and I'm perfectly prepared to be told I don't. It's been that kind of case. You want the rosewood box and the very important heart you believe it contains. You are not, I take it, interested in this young lady's heart, also inside the box.
Sweetman inclined his large head dubiously. No offense, young lady, but I would not have no interest in your heart under any conditions.
For someone who doesn't want to offend, said Holly,
I'd have to say you came pretty damn close.
The point being, I said quickly, that since we all want a different thing from Gideon Brooks, we don't have to be each other's throats. We can work together to acquire the box, then each take what we want from it.
Are you crazy?
Said Harley, hurrying out from behind me so she could glare at me properly.
Give up on the box?
You hired me to find your stolen heart, I said. Or are you now just saying the box is more important?
No,
said Holly. It's all about the heart. She looked at Gunboy.
We could use some serious firepower if we're going up against Gideon Brooks.
Gunboy looked at Mr. Sweet, then put his hands back in his pocket.
Don't salt, boy,
said Mr. Sweet.
It's very unattractive.
I smiled around me. I love it when a compromise comes together. And then we all looked around sharply as the door before us opened on its own. I felt a little disappointed that I wouldn't get to show off what I could do with my gift and the summoning key. We all stood looking at the door for a long moment, but nothing menacing emerged, and there was only an impenetrable gloom beyond. We looked at each other, and then I led the way forward, only because I didn't trust any of the others to react responsibly to anything unexpected. Sweetman and Gunboy fell in behind me, and Holly brought up the rear. Beyond the door lay a simply dimly lit hallway with no obvious magical trappings. Could have been any house, anywhere. The door closed quietly behind us once we'd all entered. The four of us pretty much filled the narrow hallway. A door to our left swung slowly open, and I led the way into the adjacent room. When in doubt, act confidence. The room was open and warmly lit, with no furnishings or fittings, just bare wooden floorboards and one very ordinary-looking, casually dressed, middle-aged man sitting on the chair, surrounded by a great pentacle burning right in the floorboards. He was holding a simple wooden box in his hands, perhaps a foot long, half as wide. The lines of the pentacle flared up abruptly as Sweetman approached them, and he stopped short. The lines shone with a fierce white light blazing with supernatural enemy. Sweetman stepped carefully back and gestured to Gunboy, who smiled slowly as he took both hands out of his pocket. And then he stopped, looking almost adjacently at Sweetman, and put his hands away again. Apparently, conceptual guns were no match for an older and more established magic. I looked at Holly. She was staring unblinkingly at Gideon. I couldn't read the expression on her face. She doesn't look angry or scared. She's utterly focused on the box in his hand. You're a witch, I said to her quietly. Can you do anything then? She scowled suddenly as she looked at Gideon. It might have just have been the scowl, but she doesn't look pretty anymore. If I could have broken this protection, I wouldn't have needed your help. You never did like having to depend on others, the man in the chair said pleasantly. And you really couldn't stand someone else having power over you, even when you came to them to learn the ways of magic. You were the best student I have ever had, my dear, until you grew impatient, tried to steal my secrets. And when that failed, you had to go looking for powers in all sorts of unsuitable places. He looked at me. Whatever she told you, you can't trust it. She'll say things, do anything to get her what she wants. She slept with demons, so they teach her their magics. I wouldn't. She stole grimoires and objects of power, and she would have stolen my heart if I hadn't taken precautions. No one tells me what to do, said Holly. With your heart in my hands, you'll have to taught me everything I wanted, and as far as the demons, every single one of them was better in the sack than you. Women always know how to fight dirty. I kept my place moving, so you couldn't find me, said Gideon. I should have known you'd go to the infamous John Tyler, the man who can find anything. What did she tell you, Mr. Tyler, when she wasn't smiling her pretty smile at you? She said you stole her heart, I said, and put it in the rosewood box. Oh, Holly, said Gideon, and he actually laughed briefly. It's my heart in the box, Mr. Tyler. I put it in there after she tried to steal it, because she couldn't stand the idea of anything having a hold over her. So you don't have any feelings for her? I said, just to be sure. Said Gideon. I should have known that would be the heart of a matter, so to speak. Is that why you're here, Holly? You never loved me, said Holly. She stood directly before him, just outside of the pentacle, both her small hands clenched in the fist. I did everything right, and you still never loved me. You never loved anyone, said Gideon, said calmly. You always loved power more. I just wanted you to be your mentor. Holly turned suddenly to me. You believe me, don't you, Mr. Tyler? You'll get the box for me, and then we can make him do anything we want. Sorry, I said, but I never believed you, Holly. You hired me to find the rosewood box. Well, there it is. She was the one who let the words get out that I had the box, said Gideon, so that avaricious men all over the world would come looking for it, and she could set them against me, just in case you didn't work out, Mr. Tyler. How does it feel, being you? I shrugged. It comes with a job. Gideon Brooks turned his attention to Sweetman and Gunboy. It's really nothing more than a simple storage box, you know, perhaps a little more famous than most. It may have the contents any number of important, significant items in its time. That only heart is contained now is mine, where Holly can't get it after all. Sweetman's brief bark of laughter held even less real humor than usual. My dear sir, you don't really expect me to believe that. I have followed the box throughout unknown cities and blood-soaked streets, and I will have it. Gunboy, point those marvelous hands of yours at Mr. Tyler and the little witch. Now, Mr. Brooks, give up the box for everything my enthusiast young associate does to these two young people will be on your responsibility. Holly looked at Gunboy and then at Gideon. You wouldn't really let him hit me, would you, sweetie? You did say I was your best student you ever had. I had students before you, said Gideon, and there will be others after you. So hopefully I'll choose a little more wisely next time. I am quite fond of you, Holly, against all my better judgment, but not enough to put my heart at risk. What about me? I said. What about you? Said Gideon. Fair enough. Oh, well, Holly said brightly. Plan B. She turned her most charming smile at Gunboy and took a deep breath. Sweetman chuckled. Trust me, young lady, you have absolutely nothing that dear Gunboy desires. But he has something I want, said Holly. I want his heart. She made a sudden grasping gesture with one outstretched hand, and Gunboy screamed shrilly as the back arched and his chest exploded. His black leather jacket burst apart and the bare flesh beneath tore open as his heart ripped itself from its bony settings and flew across the air to nestle into Holly's waiting hands. Blood ran thickly between her fingers. As the hearts continued to beat, Holly's pretty pink mouth moved in a brief mouse of disaster, and then she closed her hands and suddenly vicious strength crushing the heart. Gunboy fell to the floor and lay still, eyes still streaming in horror, his chest bloody ruined. Sweetman let out a single cry of absolute pain and loss and knelt beside Gunboy to cradle the dead boy in his huge arms. Blood soaked his white caftan, and he rocked Gunboy back and forth like a sleeping child. Silent tears ran down Sweetman's face. So, I said to Holly, that's the kind of witch you are. She dropped the crushed heart onto the floor and flicked blood from her fingernails. She smiled at me sweetly. I'm the kind of witch you don't want to disappoint. I did tell you Gideon dealt in forbidden knowledge.
That was such a good listener. Now, be a good boy and go get the box for me. You can find a way past Gideon's defenses. It's what you do.
Yes, I said, but there's a limit to what I do.
She gave me a cold, measured look, and I met her gaze unflinching.
Never let them see fear in your eyes.
I bought your services for £1,000 a day,
Holly said finally,
and the day isn't over yet.
I found the box for you, I said. Not my fault your heart wasn't in it. Still, after all my investigation, I probably knew more about the box than you do. It was originally made to contain all the pain and horror of a man's broken heart, and it's still in there, trapped inside the box for centuries, growing stronger and more frustrated. It's been alone so long. It must be very hungry for company by now. You may know the box as Heart's Ease. Perhaps it was originally, but it was another name, the Hungry Heart. I raised my gift, found my way past Gideon's protection, and used my gift and the key to unlock the rosewood box. The lid snapped open. The hungry heart within reached out and grabbed Holly and pulled her inside, all in a moment. It might have taken me to... If Gideon hadn't immediately forced the lid closed again, we looked at each other in the suddenly quiet room. She wanted my heart, said Gideon. Now she can keep its company. Forever. Sweetman looked up, still cradling dead Gunboy. What is that? What's really inside the box? The stuff that screams are made of, I said. So, my ghoulies, that was quite a hungry heart. Had such an appetite for murder. But, yeah, that was one of the stories in the Night Side. And as I said, the next couple weeks I'll be reading 2 more. So, stay tuned, and they're all not. None of the others are about John Tyler. They're all about different people from the series. But, what did you think of that? Do you like this urban fantasy style? This noir magic, or whatever it's called? Me, I love it. But if you don't, leave me something in the description. Or if you do and have some suggestions on short stories for me to read in this styling, leave it down below. I really like the styling, even if it hurts my throat by the time I'm done reading something this long. But until then, this has been Warlock Boo, hoping to be spooking y'all later. Bye.